Welcome to a live edition of Breaking the Grade. And this is so live that 20 seconds ago, John Gamba and his screen went black. And now Doug Roberts, his screen is black. So this is the beauty of live TV. So Doug, you're kind of the guest of honor. So there you are. You're back. Here we go. That's fantastic.
Okay.
And it's interesting because this whole show is about being in the room with the right people. And so we need you in the room, Doug. So welcome to our playroom, right, John? This is kind of like our playroom once a week.
You never know what's going to happen, Doug.
Right.
You never know. You never know. So welcome in, Doug. Tell everybody who you are, and then we'll talk about where the three of us have been and where we're going with this show.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Hey, John. I'm Doug Roberts. I am the founder, CEO of the Institute for Education Innovation. We are a national school superintendent think tank. We are a connector of great people who want to help improve outcomes for kids. And we're a place where we bring together the innovator partners in the private sector, the district leaders who want to be on the cutting edge, and others who want to be in community with us, like you two gentlemen who were just with us. And I've had very little sleep the last few days, so you'll forgive me. And my allergies got so knocked sideways by the New Mexico dry high mountain air that I'm like struggling. So if I hop on mute for a second, it's because I don't want anybody else to have to hear me coughing.
I'm with you. I'm not sure if I met God knows how many wonderful people. I also had God knows how many bloody noses in the friggin' shower. It was so dry.
We were in
Mexico, and I came from Mexico.
Right.
So I hear you. And just for everybody who doesn't know, and that's a really small number, John Gamba, why don't you introduce yourself too?
Yeah, I'm John Gamba. I'm the Director of Innovative Projects and Entrepreneur in Residence at Penn's Graduate School of Education. I am still here in New
I think we lost John.
Mexico with some travel application. I'm still here. Back?
You're here. You're back.
Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
We do that innovation and impact through a continuum of programming, meetups, boot camps, our signature program, the Milk and Penn GSE Education Business Plan Competition. And we work with a lot of entrepreneurs just like Doug. I think that Doug was being humble. I can't say enough about this institute. The people, the connections, the camaraderie, the family atmosphere. It's just really, really great. And I'm excited about this show, not to get too deep into it. I'll let you frame it, Josh, but I'm just full of oodles of energy regarding who we met with, the type of atmosphere, the sense of connection and purpose to the work that we're all trying to do to advance innovation and impact in this space, especially given these turbulent times. So just very excited to be here and really excited that we've brought Doug into this mix and excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. The feeling and emotion that I have coming out of this, and I talked about this in my email this morning, is that IEI, where we came from over those couple of days, that wasn't just a conference. It was a real reminder of that we should be grateful to be able to be in the room with these people who are friggin' legends.
Yeah.
Friggin' public school superintendent legends who I have heard for a very long time, and I knew this to be true, are in a fraternity, but they let us in. Yeah. And I know, Doug, you have created this opportunity for all of us to be there. So before we get into this idea that in 2026, if you're not in the room with superintendents, you're not in the game, why don't you talk about how you created this giant room and why?
Okay. How did I create it? Relationships, setting up one-to-one meetings with who whose trust I had earned. Some of whom said, you should, it's like a typical conversation at a conference. It would be cool if this conference did this or that. Like I just kind of cataloged all of that over probably 5 years or so of, I was running a consulting business that worked with startup companies, and I was teaching them the relationship selling game, right? And teaching them about how to, understand your district before you go, a lot of stuff that you guys talk about here and do in your own work. And I was doing that, we would now today call it a fractional VP of sales, but I was essentially doing that. And so in my travels, we were having good results, getting these companies put on the map, and I would do it through going to events. But there was always, the events felt like we were shoehorning my clients into the events, because again, most of them are startups and early stage. So I started to think, well, what if we built one that really leaned in on the things that earlier stage or growth oriented companies needed? What if we tried to demystify, debunk, destigmatize the idea of selling to school districts and the idea of school district leaders being good at buying things? Like, what if we stopped saying that that's a dirty word for a school district to be good buyers, and try to build something that does it in a way that makes sense for a school district, where a board of ed can say, I'm glad my superintendent's a member of that, because it's a really above board, good organization that benefits our district and helps us source, vendors that is going to be way better than putting out an RFI and getting 400-page documents that no one actually reads. That's going to be better than sort of, hunt and peck Google, right? And would be maybe not better, but more comprehensive than what is the buying strategy, the by far most common buying strategy of district leaders. Hey, Steve, what do you guys use for mental health? Right? You call the person down the road at the county superintendent luncheon once a month. Hey, what do you guys use for facilities management? That's primarily how they source their vendors. So what if I could build something that essentially infused a bunch of these companies that folks haven't heard of, but who are doing really cool stuff, who are led by really dynamic and interesting founders and leaders who they will want to learn from? And then what if I just went out and found the superintendents who like who like working with these earlier stage companies that are willing to do pilots? And then, so in those conversations, I heard a lot of common themes. I don't like, from superintendents, I don't like long meetings. Want to go somewhere nice. This one I have, I kind of came up with myself, but people really vibed on it. I want to be able to bring my spouse. If you do it in the summer, don't do it on a weekend and let me bring my kids. Right. So so I sort of put all that together, but short meetings was a really big one. Many soups would just tell me, like, look, I got total ADHD and I can't listen to a vendor for longer than 25 minutes without checking out. So then 25 minutes became the length of the one-to-one meetings. This was a big one. When I go to a conference, I don't like that I'm sort of, on display somehow in, either the brush, the conference book or the app or whatever, and vendors will come up to me as if we know each other, and we don't. And I feel bad. It wasn't like, how dare you talk to me? It was like, I feel bad because I don't know what they do. And then they're trying to talk to me about what they do. And I'm asking them questions because I don't know. Like, what if all the partners who are there could just get up and introduce themselves briefly? That's really helpful. So that's the 2-minute intro that we now do. And the first couple of these, we tried doing it with PowerPoints and all that. A, the vendors are notoriously bad about getting the PowerPoints in on time. B, it just was too much. And it was like distracting. That what we really wanted, what the soups really wanted, was just like, can you talk to me for 2 minutes about what you do? Just talk to me. Look me in the eye and talk to me. And that's essentially what we set up. And then the third one was, I am more than willing to sit and talk with vendors, but it's got to be, if you're going to take me out of district, away from my kids and away from the cabinet, all the people I manage, when I talk to the vendors, it has to be vendors that are directly related to what I'm working on. Like, you got to figure out a way to sit me down with companies that can help me get better at the things we're trying to get better at. And some Some years that's going to be strategic planning. Some years it's going to be literacy. You got to let me drive my path through the vendor experience. And so I thought, well, okay, because normally the way it works at most events is that the people paying the check get to choose who they meet with. And the bigger the check, the more leverage you get over who you get to meet with. And obviously that's kind of broken, because if the buyer doesn't choose to be at the table, basically you're at a timeshare presentation, so you can go to a nice hotel somewhere nice, right? It's November, you're based in the north, and you get to go to Orlando for 3 days, and you have to sit through these presentations, but you have no intention of actually acting on them because no one asked you what you're interested in. So that was a key element to what we did. And I, being me, initially sat down and figured, back then the business was I hadn't even incorporated it yet. So I had time for this stuff. And I was like, this is probably a spreadsheet problem. So I made a spreadsheet that turned into, essentially, I built a bunch of rules into it, and I would ingest data from Google Forms that I got from both sides. The key to it, though, this was important, because I tried at some event early on when I was doing this as an adjunct to my consulting business. I tried to get the soups to fill out the form in advance, and like 3 of them did it, and I harassed them. And these are people I know well, and like who knew me, and we're all in on the event. And that's when I picked up, oh yeah, they can't really think about this while they're in district. They can only, when they show up, they are all in on what we're doing for 2.5. I got them 2.5 days, all in whatever we're doing. I got these folks to play kickball with each other once on a beach in 50-degree weather in South Carolina.
You got everybody to sing "Lean on Me" for Christ's sake at the gala. Now, right. John was watching the Eagles game, but we were all singing "Lean on Me." That's okay.
There's something for everybody. Anyway, I know I've got them captive at that moment. And so I was like, I got to collect the data in real time. So whatever matching algorithm I build, it has to allow me to collect superintendent interests in real time, because literally their needs might change between, when I have them fill out the form and the month later when they show up. So that element is a little bit of a tightrope walk kind of act, because you have to get it done in a short amount of time. So the meetings happen the next day. And so when I was running the conference, just me and, I had one employee at the time, Tiffany, who everyone knows, she would go run the conference for 3 hours, 4 hours. I'd skip dinner and I'd sit in a room banging away on a spreadsheet. And that obviously doesn't work. I have to be out there talking to people too. So I built software to run that part of it. And I'll say this past one was interesting because all the flight changes, thank you to our federal government, all the flight changes that happened on Sunday almost broke the matching system, because there was so much missing data and it didn't quite know we had to do a lot of manual work. So it actually was probably the hardest match we've done since we built the software. But the software is built so that it talks by API with the event app, so that everyone's one-to-one meeting schedules get populated in the app. So as far as they know, they show up at 8:30 for the launch of day 2, and there's a keynote and they see that in their agenda. And then it's like, oh, go to table 24, and they meet with a company. And more often than not, they're like, oh, cool. I really wanted to talk to these people. Here's when I realized I had done something unique and cool. A couple of years ago, superintendents started coming up to me at the event, and they're going, hey, how come I didn't get matched with such and such a company? I really wanted to talk to them. And I had to explain, well, there's a prioritization on their side and your side, and the algorithm didn't put it as a top priority. Well, can you connect me with them? Yeah, sure. So then what we did was we built a final extra one-to-one meeting slot as a wild card. And then sometimes we schedule those when people are high in the algorithm, like for a match. But if it's not, we just leave it open. So the soups can walk around and dealer's choice, go talk to whichever companies they want. So long answer to your question.
No. You know what? It actually is very helpful, because I have been guided into these ecosystems, like the one you have created and the one that Jen Ferrari runs at ERDI and some of the others through John. So I think it would be interesting to hear from John, who kind of can look at the larger landscape and talk to our audience about the IEI, the ERDI, the DALI, the RTM, and how people can look at them as separate but equal. And how do you look at those?
Complementary.
Yeah. Complementary.
Very much so. So first of all, a couple things, synthesizing some of the important messages that Doug and you just laid out. First of all, this idea of a fraternity. I also want to emphasize it's not only a fraternity, it's a sorority as well.
Yeah.
and it's very diverse. And I know that's what you meant, Josh, but I'll tell you how many superintendents and school leaders of color are involved in IEI, bringing a diverse perspective into student needs, into staff needs. And I love that. And it's not this whole controversy around DEI. It's just a bunch of diverse leaders who are very cool, who really like each other. So that I want to start with that there's a cultural thing that Doug's developed with IEI that's helpful. So that's really important.
But can I just say that we have spent a significant effort being intentional around recruitment so that we could build a group that looks like the students in our schools. And that was the early advisors to the group said, you know, what would be cool? I go to all these superintendent things and, you know, it's like, what if we could try to change the demographics of superintendents through this group and make it the one that has the most women and people of color in it relative to other things. So that's intentional.
Yeah.
Obviously,
so
that's, you know, John, you know me,
messages.
everybody knows me. That's what I meant, you know, fraternity, sorority.
Yeah. No, I know.
But fair enough.
I know. And I want to really do a +1 there, Josh. Second thing is complimentary. Yes. Cause all of the institutes are different. I'm an institute guy. I don't believe in trade show booths and just putting everything going all in on putting a booth at EdTech Week or ASU GSV or somewhere. Although I think there's a time and a place for that. I'm a huge fan, and I've actually built businesses around and exited around the institute model. The second thing I think needs to be emphasized about IEI that I sense, because I'm relatively new to IEI, I'm decades in ERDI, is that it's fun. It's really fun. And it's social. And I want to emphasize that it's not fun and social as in go to the bar, booze, socialize that way.
Yeah.
The process of learning about innovations and impact from partners to thought leaders to school leaders, district leaders, is actually a fun process. Once the matching happens through Doug's proprietary algorithm and software, the buzz, who'd you get? What'd you get? Do you know him? Did you know them? Should I rank them higher? Should I? And people use terms like eHarmony and Tinder and swiping right and swiping. And I think it's really healthy. Doug said demystify, but I think to take down this stigma of selling and making it an advantage and making it a core value of what IEI does, so that there's no BS around what we're trying to do here. I'm a district leader and I want to know what the best solutions are. I'm a partner and I want to get in front of somebody and answer the questions as to the problems and solutions as I see them and what I think I can do to align to the problems and solutions that need to be done at your district. And so it really is masterful in how that goes down through the air of fun, social, camaraderie, family, but with the undertone of you're there to present your product and you're there to look for sales opportunities. And I think it's really well done. And bravo, Doug, for what you've created with the IEI.
And the results that I found talking to many of the people that were there who were business owners are breakthroughs. I mean, true breakthroughs for their business, not, yes, from a connection and a relationship standpoint, and those are very important, but also learning about their own business. Because what we emphasized, John and I, when we were on this panel that was led by Tiffany, was that you got to go there and listen. Yeah. And that, I believe, is certainly true for a place like ERDI or really anywhere else you go. You need to go and listen. And what was so interesting, Doug, about as you were giving us how you started this, you practice what you preach, which is you listen to these superintendents who said, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. Great. I'll build what you want, not what I think you want.
Yeah. But I need you to show up. And they did, you know,
and
like,
they have.
Yeah, I think that's the thing in terms of, you know, kind of the buzz and that process, you know, I'm the only, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one of these, the only founder of one of these things who is both an educator and somebody who took companies to market, selling to superintendents. And that, knowing both sides of it, I think is really important, and understanding, but it's essentially like that matching algorithm and that buzz or whatever, like that's just me scaling up what I used to do for clients into an event and getting to throw a great event for people because I like throwing nice events for people. But it's, the superintendents took my meetings because I didn't go to them with something that wasn't going to help them. Or if I wasn't sure, I approached it in a way that they found to be okay, and they would work with me on the next one. And so the matching algorithm is basically trying to scale that up so that many companies can access this kind of work at a much lower price point than, say hiring some consultant like me for a year. You know what I mean?
Totally. So your events become ecosystems. And when people listen, they walk away with potentially pivots. They walk away with potentially partnerships. They walk away with a better understanding of their product market fit. And I'm going to use one more P word, which is proximity. Can you talk about the importance of proximity at an event like this, where you really get to have conversations, yes, where you're listening to when you're talking about your literacy platform or your math platform, but where you're also just listening and talking about life or getting a chance to meet somebody's spouse? What's the importance of that?
Oh yeah, I always coach the partners like if you really want to kill any sort of conversation with a district leader, ignore that person's spouse and treat them like they're, secondary to the conversation, like you're done. And so that it's just, I'm closer with some of the spouses of the members than I am with the member. I mean, not really, but like I've become very good friends with a lot of the spouses over the years because it's so fun to have them, and like Jill Mitchell, Tim Mitchell's wife. Tim was a superintendent with us for until he retired. I basically put her on, basically I was like, why don't you coordinate our spouse events and keep coming? So I just, they come as part of our team to the events, and she does a really terrific job. She knows how to throw a spouse party. And so the spouses get to go and, go do stuff during the day, and then they just join up with us at night for dinner. Yeah, no, it's so hard to get in the room together. And, to be in the room, to be in a room at the district office, what happens there? Everybody wants something from the superintendent, right? For good reasons. Like they come to meet with him or her. They want approval on a decision, right? So it's really hard to kind of kick back and talk about, your kids or grandkids. I'm not putting any of the big events down, but whenever you're at like a state superintendent conference or a AASA or an ISTE, superintendent walks in the room, everyone like laser focuses on them and wants to talk to them. And they tell me how much that really wears on them. Like, just constantly having people wanting to talk to you and all that. It's exhausting. And so we try to, by having the one-to-one meetings, it's like that happens for a few hours during the event, but the rest of the time, that's not really our vibe here. And, and we don't, because it's a small enough event, like I curate this thing. I've built the culture in the community, again, through lots of one-to-one chats. Someone will come to me and say, hey, somebody was a little bit aggressive with their approach with me. And, that I see that as an opportunity to help somebody kind of learn and grow. And so that's kind of how we've managed those things over the years, is just, hey, can I chat with you? And people always seem to be really grateful for it. And if they're not, then maybe they're not the right fit for our organization. Same thing, by the way, for any vendor partners out there listening, I get pretty active with the members and the other soups who come on follow-up. And if I do it, and if we do it, like Tiffany does it too, if we do it, it actually helps facilitate something versus it feeling like a pitch. But if somebody is really excited and seems like they want it, they identify a next step with the partner. And so that next step is supposed to happen, but a few weeks go by and it hasn't. The partner will reach out to us sometimes, say, hey, can you help me out? I'm not sure. And it's usually, I don't want to step on any toes, but it seemed like we were going to do something. And then we go into action, and usually it's a text or a call, like, hey, can you let me know? And what I offer to do is say, hey, I'll ask the partner to really kind of back off if you like tell me what you want me to do. And sometimes they'll say, yeah, we're just too busy, we can't do it. I really want to talk to them, but tell them, I'll see them in July or something, right? Or usually they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot to write back to her. That's terrible. I'll like suggest something like, do you want to hand it off to someone on your team to take the next steps? That's a great idea, Doug. So like in those ways, those little one-off things, that's kind of baked into what we do. It's because we care about those people finding a way to work productively together if that's what they want. And if they don't, we can also help make sure that happens.
So there's a science to what you're doing, and there is absolutely an art. And I would like the artist in the room, which would be John Gamba, to kind of talk the people who are listening to this about how they should approach an event like IEI or anything else that they go to where they are in proximity to decision makers, what they should do, and of course, what they should not do.
Well, first of all, when you said proximity, I thought we were going to geek out on the zone of proximal development, which is what we're talking about these days. Scaffolded learning and personalized learning and AI-powered enablement.
That's the next show.
I guess that's for another show because I know Doug could geek out that way. I would say, to answer your question directly, 2 more P's: practice and preparation. I think that the EdTech solution providers and partners, and they are treated like another P, partners in this equation, should do some research and really try to ask around as to what the best institute would be for them, and possibly do them all. Mm-hmm. Each of the institutes have a sort of a try before you buy program, a way to get involved without having to empty your wallet and risk too much capital. I know Jen and Doug are into some startup ways of getting people engaged and involved. And then when you get in there with IEI, I can't tell you how many times the highlights or the Swift scores or the clevers, I saw them prepare for their 25 minutes in a way where they were consumed by the strategic plans district leader. Right. And they had something to say specifically, not about their solution, but about the strategic plans of the districts and how the solution could align to those strategic priorities. And the preparation that went into setting up virtual accounts. And at the end of at 24 minutes and 58 seconds saying, you now have an account to play with this. I'd like to follow up after you and your team have had a chance to interact with it, was truly a mark of a solution provider or a partner who's probably going to have some success coming out of IEI. So I'd say practicing what you're going to present in that short 25 minutes, and then being prepared with the pain points that the prospective school leaders, the district leaders, are dealing with, and how your solution can align to address that pain point in a high fidelity and measurable way.
Yeah, John, I would say, thanks for saying that. I would say this is going to sound biased because it's coming from me and I'm the IEI guy, but I gave this advice to clients long before I started IEI. I firmly believe that you should spend money going to things like IEI before you build a sales team. That a founder, maybe a founder plus one who's or a co-founder who's got sales experience, but this is a great, you spend this money first because that helps you figure out what, where, and how and when to hire salespeople. You learn about your product in a way that you learn a lot about people and a lot about a district and an agency when you ask them for money. And so, but making that ask, even if it's a small pilot, you're going to learn a ton about your own service. And geographically, because most of us cover the whole nation, this is like selling into K-12 can be, you can have a really great exit if you're only up in like 8 states and you're, sub 5% penetration in those 8 states. There's some companies who've had ridiculously good exits just with that. And so, and I was part of one of them, Wireless Generation, which is now called Amplify. I worked there for a long time and I built like 4 states for us out of nothing. And you do it because you come here and these people want to work with you because they get to know you and get to see you. You got to show up. Zoom calls, emails, not so much. So it's a way to really kind of understand what your sales organization could look like before you invest in your sales organization. And not for nothing, we also have tons of people who move around in our community from company to company. So you also meet, because while one company may be going one direction or exiting or whatever, there's that person's going to need a place to go work. And so you can meet your potential future sales team at our event.
Yeah, I think you not only can you learn about your business and can you learn about the people you're talking to, I think you can also learn a lot about yourself. And when I work with companies through the Ed Sales Elevation Experience and we do our signature solution, which is their offer, and I have them, we create this whole kind of 9-step journey, and then they deliver it. And in most cases, they are talking about a business they've had for decades, but they stumble through a 5-minute presentation because they've never really tried to take somebody they're talking to on a journey from confusion to clarity on exactly how you can help them. And that's a challenging thing. And you're asking them to do it face to face. So that adds a whole nother layer. I know, Doug, you have to run out the door in less than 8 minutes.
Got to pick up the kid.
Got to pick up the kid. You might have seen my kid being really, really creative, crawling across the floor here. That was really, really brilliant move there. John knows our daughter Camila. I know she was just trying to sneak by
as a guest speaker.
Next time I'm going to pull her ass on. But talk about kind of the IEI flywheel, Doug. Talk about please the summits, the retreats, the Soup's Choice, the Advise. Just talk about kind of the whole flywheel.
Like I think we're 90% known for the summits. It's actually about 60% of our work probably, but there's 3 national summits, a spring, a summer, and a fall. Fall and spring are heavy professional development learning opportunities. The summer has keynote and learning, but it also has the startup pitch competition and coaching for startup companies in our soup tank format, Shark Tank with soups, get it? We do a couple of regional summits where we have in states like Georgia and New York where we have a deep bench of members. That's basically the members were like, hey, can we do one of these at home? Because I want my other superintendent colleagues to get to check out IEI, but they're not going to travel for it. And so we do a couple of those a year. And then we do a district leader event, District Leader Connect, or a DLC. That is, the target there is people who are hoping to aspire to the superintendency or at least aspire to grow as leaders. It's deputy superintendents and the like, cabinet members. And the content is all learning content provided by our members. The superintendents in our group are the teachers, if you will. That's in late April in Denver. Then a big chunk of what we do is outbound road trips, we call them. We go to ASU GSV, we go to South by Southwest EDU, and usually supported by a few of our partners to go on that trip. We'll be at BET as well. And so we bring soups to those events and provide them with opportunities to learn. It's sort of like an EF Tours meets Shark Tank kind of a thing. Like we're there to learn, meet with schools in that place, in that country. We're going to London, we go to Stockholm. We're there to meet with our colleagues and talk about the ways we can support each other across the ocean doing similar work and learn about their system. And it helps us, get better at running ours. And then, in the case of like a BET, go to the BET conference and learn what they're discussing at an EdTech conference that covers the whole world, and learn what like educators from everywhere from Bahrain to Singapore to Australia are working on. And so these are great, pretty unique learning opportunities that we provide our members. And then there is the stuff we do in terms of advocacy on behalf of our members in public education. And that's our road shows. We go visit the districts and we share out all the great work they're doing. We got one coming up in Kansas City in January. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to do one in New York in December. We just also, put a bunch of time and energy into our social media feed to help, again, like tell the stories, like help raise up the brand of our members in their districts and just be allies to public education. We spend a lot of time on that. And no, that all keeps us pretty busy.
But when you're home, you got to be home. So we got about 2.5 minutes because you got to
Band
do what
practice
you got to
ends at
do.
20.
So John, I'm going to give you the last word here, and just talk about, if you can, from just a generic standpoint here, the value of a company for really getting some proximity to Doug, and then even further proximity to the ecosystem he's created. What's the value?
Yeah. So before I kind of summarize, so there's something that Doug said that really jumped out, and how he's built this, the foundation before it became Amplify. What I love about IEI is we start to finish each other's sentences when we're guiding partners. There's not a lot of inconsistency in terms of the advice that you, Josh, myself, Doug, Tiffany, the crew provides these solution providers and the district leaders. For example, I used to teach writing, and I used to say, never underestimate the power of a 2-word sentence. And I think I heard Doug, as everybody was running around saying, I want to get in front of the 40,000 student district, say, never underestimate the power of a 4-school district to create a center of excellence in Slate Valley, Vermont, and to kind of build, this movement of whatever you're selling, whatever you're delivering, and then getting 5 or 6 smaller superintendents, smaller districts led by very smart superintendents to really speak about the power of your solution is just so powerful. I used to call it centers of excellence. And while everybody was running around thinking about CAFLEXIS, right? California, Texas, and Florida, which is 6 million, 5 million, and 2.5 million students respectively, we were thinking about where could we create this center of excellence in rural Georgia and then build out from there. And believe it or not, on my major exit, just under $200 million, it was building the presence and purpose inside the proximity inside of the institutes, coming up with these centers of excellence in pockets of innovation led by thought leaders that were doing their thing as district leaders, thinking about NRR, not ARR, net recurring revenue, which is a function of building inside of a district and renewing what you've already sold. The power of a high performing performance, another P, a high performing company really comes out. And I feel strongly that by making an investment in one of the institutes, and especially IEI, it could be a really great investment for a founder to gain intelligence, build relationships, and think about how to create those centers of excellence that could put you on the path to long-term sustainable competitive growth. So I'm a big believer, and I'm excited to continue my involvement in partnership with Doug and the crew at IEI.
Well, we're glad to have you. And I think back to I'll shout out. We just gave Magma Math our Innovator Partner Hall of Fame award this year. So they joined ClassLink and Apogee and Alavie, these blue chip awesome companies. So at their first event with us in 2021. They had 0 customers in the U.S. They were virtual from Sweden. And if they had put into our matching tool, I want no districts, smaller than 10,000 kids, they would not have found Sewanaka Central School District in New York, which has about 2,500 students, right? That one decision set off a whole chain of events because they sold to Sewanaka, first district in the U.S., and the rest is history. And they just raised $50 million on their Series B. So and there are several other companies like that in our ecosystem who, by not playing the size game, and if your investors are telling you to play the size game, unless you're far along and you have a really defined business model that focuses on large districts, and there are a lot of companies like that. But if you're early stage and you've got investors telling you that, they're just wrong. And you should find a way to, Josh and I will help you make the case to them if you need to, that you got to work with the little guys, especially in the beginning.
No doubt. You're talking to a person who built a $5 million business by hitting singles. So I'm a firm believer, and I went school by school. So small district by small school district makes a lot of sense. You can't do it from your desk. We can have this conversation from our desk, but you have to be out there. Superintendents buy from people they trust. They are not looking for products. They're looking for partners. And at a place like IEI, you're able to start forging those relationships with those partners. So whether you go with IEI, ERDI, DALI, or RTM, you need to pick your room and you need to stay consistent in it. So Doug, I want to,
Can I get one more thing in here? I'm really sorry.
You're the one who's got to run. I'll stick around for as long as you want.
I've got, because there's a narrative out there about us that we only have little districts, and I need to make sure that, yes, you got to work with the little ones, but the average district size at an IEI event is like 22,000 students. So we got the big ones too. And everyone who's out there saying that we don't, just I want to make sure they know that we have every kind of district here, not just the little guys.
You know what? I'll be honest. There is a narrative out there, and that is the narrative. Yeah. And I wasn't saying that you guys have small districts, but I really believe in the small school districts, and I always have. There's so many great things to be done with them through the red tape, see the success, and build from there. And I really love that the words that John used, that centers of excellence. That makes a lot of sense. So the narrative between me and my co-host John Gamba is that IEI is doing a lot of great things. Doug, you're really great to work with, as is your team, Tiffany and Christina. And so we're doing this on the heels of my plane had landed literally about 24 hours ago. John is still in New Mexico, and Doug's back and has got to go get his kid from band.
Yeah.
So we're living real lives, but we just got a chance to spend a few days in New Mexico as a group, and a lot of great things happened. So Doug, thank you for having us.
Appreciate you having me on. Thanks, gents. See you soon.
All right, fellas. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. That's Doug Roberts from IEI.
Always a pleasure, Josh. Size does matter. The size of your purpose.
Thank you, John. Talk to you, brother. Everybody, thank you for joining us on Breaking the Grade. This was kind of thrown together a little bit here because I wanted to have Doug Roberts on right after we met in New Mexico at his latest event. And again, it was a phenomenal event. You're in proximity with some of these legends, just legends, from the superintendent fraternity and sorority group here. And it's well worth the time, the money, the effort to be around them. So if you have more questions about IEI, contact Doug. If you have more questions about if you're ready to attend one of these things, feel free to talk to John or myself. And I appreciate you guys joining in. We're going to re-air this puppy tomorrow at our regular time. But for now, everybody, if you joined us on Wednesday, thank you very much for joining in. If you're joining us on Thursday, hope you enjoyed the replay. The information is still very relevant.